10 fucking years. The thought passed, sluggishly, through my cryo-dampened synapses. The individual syllables no doubt taking days of real time to form within the frozen tomb I am confined to. 10 fucking years stuck, barely conscious, as my ship drifted through the empty void of dark space. Why did I need to be awake for this? Neural degradation, I think they said, or was it exoskeletal decay? Strange. It feels like that was only a few months ago, but my thoughts drift to my mate, my clutch. Even the youngest would be out of their third molt by now, already assigned to their casts. My thoughts come quicker now, forming over days instead of weeks or months. I must be nearing my destination, my ship's persona core rousing the needed biological components, as it endearingly called me. I wonder which casts my clutch ended up in. Zara probably made it into the Medicades. She was always such a sweet girl, always patching her brothers back up when they got a puncture or a bent antenna. Jarl made warrior cast, that I have zero doubt in. That boy could pick a fight with an antlion and win. The one I worry for is Xander. He's too smart, too rebellious, too much like me. I pray for before whatever passes for sleep here, that my son doesn't end up in the Explorator cast. Warning! Warning! Detecting unusual readings on multispectral scanners. Warning! Warning! I heard this as a low, warbling voice, as if hearing a voice above the surface of water you are just about to break. Then it hit me. The sudden burning rush of cool air flooding across my carapace as the lid to my cryosarcophagus lifted slowly. It took what felt like another 10 years before I finally found my strength, slowly raising my gripping claws and latching firm onto the rim of my tomb. I slowly applied strength to each of my 6 legs, testing my knees to ensure I wouldn't accidentally flip myself over and have to ask for the persona core's assistance. Again. Sluggishly, and with great protest, my legs began to push my body high enough to step out of the cryosarcophagus. I flexed my stiff eye stalks, gently twisting and bending them to ensure full defrosting, as my comrades in the research cast, as so despise me calling it, had completed. This happened to give me a good 360-degree look at my surroundings. The cryosarcophagus chamber was as austere and utilitarian as those who had made it. They had begrudgingly agreed to the diplomatic cast appeals to beautify the claw extended in peace, by which I mean they requested an alteration of its outer paint colour. From standard scar steel grey to an eggshell white, to symbolise the ship's purpose as an exploration vessel. The diplomatic cast's envoy's 19-word request took nearly 2 years of outright threatening from the Joint Exploratory Diplomatic Coalition before they finally agreed to altering the exterior, and the diplomatic cast placed any plans for interior beautifying under permanent consideration. Warning, warning. Multispectral scanners readings suggest potential advanced civilization. Warning, warning. That suddenly drew my attention. My mind began racing as my body did the same. My body heading towards the main bridge as my mind swam with the new information, the neurons suddenly exploding into life after a decade of near inactivity. The neural implants buzzed as I brought them online with a thought and began accessing the ship's persona core. What is happening, PC? I fired through the etheric link as soon as it finished forming. I am reading 1 large and several dozen smaller energy signatures. Very weak, heavily shielded, came the cold, monotone response. I never knew why, but whenever I and the persona core spoke over an etheric link, it always gave me a headache. How far out are we? Do you know if they have detected us? I queried as I reached the bridge. If you could call it that. The bridge was a single-lane platform, with motors that allowed it to swivel, to allow manipulating claws to access required panels. It would be lucky to be considered a gunnery port on a warship. We are still 0.65 light years away from the target system. 2 of the smaller signatures have broken away from the group and are approaching. Time until interception, 3 minutes, 28 seconds at current speed. The core responded rapidly. 3 minutes? Did you drop us directly onto a station or something? I blurted out loud. The focus required to send it over etheric link, failing me, as visions of dying in the cold void at the hands of aliens, all because my stupid persona core couldn't spot a fucking space station dancing over my mind. No, the core responded taciturnly. My navigation software is functioning at 100% efficiency, and the main cluster of energy sources is still 3 light minutes away. The signatures are travelling at near light speed, it stated, as I felt my blood run cold. There was no way those ships could stop in time. Those are some kind of suicide vessel or maybe even torpedoes. Are they on a collision course? I screeched, as I had begun hastily scratching activation orders for the ship's shield generators. No, the core responded flatly. If I wasn't so panicked at the time, I would have sworn there was a hint of amusement in its otherwise monotone response. I paused, manipulator claws hovering about their workstations. Their current heading? I asked in a confused tone. They are on an intercept course as I stated, though they show no signs of deceleration, neither are on a collision course, the persona core responded. There was a brief pause as I looked over the data sprawling across my many screens. Or do you believe my tracking software is malfunctioning now as well? Despite all that was happening, despite the alien signatures bearing down on us, and my own potential imminent demise, I rotated my platform to stare at the optical array that served as the persona core's eyes. Persona cores are supposed to be exactly that, a persona. A basic VI allow orders to be given on one many cruise ships. My persona core was strange. It gave pet names, it liked to view planetary footage for no reason it could logically explain, and now it was being sarcastic, as potential screaming death descended upon us both. By the Great Red Claw focus, what is coming for us? Warships? Scouts? Vortex torpedoes? I snapped, trying to get the core to focus on the more pertinent matter. I saw the lens of the optical focus briefly for a moment. Please, I added exasperatedly. There was a pause before readouts and optical imaging returns began to spool across my screens, and what I saw there that day, I will never forget. Both the ships dwarfed the claw extended in peace by a factor of 10. My vessel may be a scout ship now, but in her earlier years she was a Navy gunboat, a 300-metre long to 100-metre wide slab of scar steel shaped vaguely as my own people were, a rectangular shape, pitched at the back with 3 engines on each side. 2 crusher plasma cannons occupied the same space as my own gripping claws. But these vessels were like shards of gold and ivory. As they came closer, more detail could be made out. They seemed to be tiered, their prows reminding me of the sleek, fanged hunters of my homeworld's oceans. More detail was still to be gleaned. In every furrow, every cavity, etched into every surface was beauty. Their support pillars were colossal carvings of naked bipedal creatures. Their faces were foreign and unknown to me, but the joy and triumph that radiated off them was apparent even through that. Their surfaces were covered in gold, ivory and jade etchings, depicting everything from the most picturesque of pastoral scenes. The same strange bipeds depicted feasting on the bounty of nature, alongside what looked to be a winged version of these bipeds driving a spear through the head of an enormous reptilian creature. As I stared in sheer wonder and confusion, my attention was drawn to the live feed outside my ship. The tiny specks were rapidly enlarging, and the sudden realization that they were going to end up shooting straight past us returned. Still no sign of deceleration. I pinged nervously at the ether link. No, the core responded, a slight hit of confusion carrying over the link. We both sat, silently watching, wondering what exactly these ships were trying to do. We soon found out. In what felt like an instant, the ships exploded into full view, their hulls awash with technicolor fire that would have dazzled me blind if I hadn't been thrown from my command platform as a wave of displaced energy rocked my ship. I stared at the upside-down screen as the feelings of fear were slowly replaced by irritation and shame as I waited for the Persona Core's physical task unit to arrive and flip me back over. I had been like this for nearly an hour, watching the Core and the alien ships outside attempt to establish some form of communication. Whatever they did that caused the energy shockwave didn't seem to have been an active attempt at damaging us, as I have been rapidly and repeatedly informed that these ships could pick us apart the same way I would pick apart a shell fruit. The Core seems to be having a great deal of difficulty with this new species' language. For one, they seem to have multiple languages, unlike most species, and continue with the trend of not being like most species. Even the simplest languages are extremely complex, with them having an individual word for almost everything. Fuck it. Wake me up when your PTU can extricate itself from the cargo hold, or if you can figure out a way to speak to these aliens, I grumbled, as I shifted as I could, attempting to find a comfortable position. Humans, the Core said softly, as it continued trying to decipher the cryptic runes sprawling out across the screens. Humans, I thought to myself, as I drifted into the first true sleep I have had in 10 fucking years.